evening in Bakio, we'll be seeing current world number 2 Taj Burrow up against one of the Cooley kids, Dean Morrison. That will be quarterfinal number 4. Then we'll be moving on to possibly the most important heat of the year so far, semifinal number 1. Why don't you talk about the matchup a little bit in that one, Dino?
Well, in that heat we got Joel Parkinson, who's obviously been in complete blistering form the last few events as he goes against the 7-time world champion Kelly Slater, and that heat's a very pivotal heat for this world title race. Obviously, if Joel does not make it through that heat, then he is out of the race for good.
Exactly.
In 2006. So, Kelly Slater is seems like he's in pretty good form as well, and he's got a really good headspace, and he's going for his 8th world title, and he seems like he's here to play ball.
He's definitely here to play ball, Dino, and to absolutely go off. That's right, Kelly Slater, Joel Parkinson. If Parko loses, he's out of the race. Slater will be in the final, and at that point, Taj will have to beat Kelly to keep Kelly from winning his 8th world title. So that's pretty much the scenario. If Parko does take out Kelly, though, in semifinal number 1, Taj can still lose his quarterfinal, which is just starting right now against Dean Morrison. And if Taj does lose this quarterfinal and Kelly loses the semifinal, then mathematically Taj still has a shot at taking home the title at the end of the year, but it'll be that much harder. So meanwhile, out in the water right now, Nuno Janet, our beach speaker, has just counted down the start of this quarterfinal, and up and riding on the first wave was Dean Morrison in the yellow singlet. It's again 30-minute heats out here today. And was that Taj Burrow paddling for that one? So I was looking at the heat sheet. So 30-minute heats, as usual, 15-wave max, top 2 wave scores count, and obviously the surfer with the highest 2-wave total at the end of the heat will move into the 2nd spot in semifinal number 2 up against the California kid from Santa Barbara, Bobby Martinez. Well, there they are, Dino. Taj Burrow in red, Dean Morrison in yellow, and I guess you kind of gave us a little feeling of what you think about this one by putting Taj already in the semis, but what do you think about realistically about this matchup?
Well, you have to say that Taj is the favorite in this heat, but Dean Morrison's absolutely been in form as well, and as we start this heat out, we'll have to wait and see. Dean Morrison's already started off the heat with a .83, and I think these conditions are very tricky, and Dean's very savvy in the water in these types of conditions. He's absolutely very keen with the changes of tides and the different lineups and stuff, and this is the toss-up. It's a 50-50 match, and Taj Burrow is rated number 2 in the world, as you can see on his bio there, and his highest career ranking was 2nd in the world. So I think he's pretty savvy as well. But Taj has been really exciting to watch in the last few heats, and we'll have to wait and see. But hopefully we'll have good opportunities for both these surfers in this heat.
Well, he's really had his game face on through the last few contests. Had a little slip up in France, losing out to Pedro Enrique in round 3. But he's come back with all guns ablazing in this Billabong Pro Mundaka. And we are back to Mundaka, in case you didn't, all our internet viewers, in case you didn't recognize, we are back at the legendary left-hander here in Mundaka at the river mouth to the Urdabai River. And unfortunately, probably the least favorable conditions that we've seen here at Mundaka, but better to be at Mundaka than at Bakio. We had a great day at Bakio, got through lots of heats yesterday, Dino, but a little bit disappointing for certain surfers at the end of the day, especially for our 3-time former world champion Andy Irons to lose out in those deteriorating high tide conditions. While we're waiting for the action to get going in this one, let me give us a little wrap-up of what went on in the quarters yesterday as Andy Irons and Mick Fanning got knocked out of the world title race.
Well, in heat number 1, it was Joel Parkinson against Mick Fanning, and what at that point was the heat of the day, and probably one of the heats of the entire event. Just blow for blow action, and
only
just absolutely completely informed both those surfers. And unfortunately for them, they had to eliminate one out of the title race. And I can tell you what, Mick Fanning was no slouch. He was
whatsoever.
Flaring those turns, and Joel just seemed like he got a better opportunity or two during the heat, but nonetheless, Mick Fanning, really unfortunate for him. He was surfing so well in that heat, Dave. It was amazing.
Well, Mick Fanning and Joel Parkinson have been the two surfers that everyone's been talking about through this entire European leg, and we saw the two of them match up in the final in France, and then this was the rematch. And unfortunately for Mick Fanning and for his world title hopes, both of those matchups did go in the favor of Joel Parkinson. So, Parko, you got to say he is the in-form surfer of this event. Once again, we'll be seeing him up against Kelly Slater in semifinal number 1. And speaking of Kelly Slater, how was that heat quarterfinal number 2 against Tom Whitaker?
That was really interesting. Kelly Slater paddled out and just bang right off the bat, just on wave after wave after wave, and really seeming to get a rhythm going throughout the heat. Whereas Tommy kind of waited and played Tommy's game, where he seems to, if he's in rhythm on the bombs, he usually gets them, or if he doesn't, he just waits and doesn't get any wave at all. So in that heat, once again, Tommy, true to his form, playing his own game and waiting out the back, but never really, having the opportunity, whereas Kelly seemed like he had a plan and went out and executed it and ended up advancing into the semifinals.
Well, Kelly got that first right-hand barrel straight off the bat at the beginning of that heat. And here, Dean Morrison having a look at that one. Or no, actually, sorry, I was thinking about Kelly's heat against Corey Lopez, actually, in the round before with his barrel to start things off on that right-hander. But now Tommy Witts, Kelly Slater. Tommy basically had that one set wave at the beginning of the heat, which offered up some scoring potential, and just fell off on his backside off the top attempt, and then paddled out the back and looked at Kelly and goes, "How fat was that?" And I think Kelly, just with that one comment from Tommy Witts, saw that Tommy wasn't too stoked on the conditions, and I think Kelly really jumped on that and just took advantage of it.
Well, Kelly really looks like he's he's going to play ball big time. He's really serious, but at the same time really relaxed. He's around the contest side, just checking the waves at all times, and just kind of cruisy. And he seems like he knows the title's there for his to lose. If he doesn't get the title this year, it's because he's completely blowing it. Obviously he's got such good results this year. You got to think he's really comfortable at this point.
Well, it looked like in the early rounds and even in France that he wasn't as comfortable as he could be, and then it's true, yesterday he just came down to the beach and it's like a whole different Kelly Slater. All of a sudden everything was clicking, and he was linking his moves together, pulling those airs and doing those super easy turns. And yep, so anyways, Kelly Slater is back and he's into the semifinal number 1. If he does take out Parko, he'll meet the winner of this heat against Bobby Martinez in their semifinal 2 matchup to see who goes on to the final. And of course, that's a big story. Andy Irons out of the title race after going down by 1 point to Bobby Martinez. What happened to Andy?
Well, he looked really in form, actually. One of those waves, he had 2 big backside blasts. Had he have had one more turn on that wave, it might have been a different situation. I think it was his second to last wave, that left he had. He went upside down on that second turn, just blowing the tail out. I think that heat was a really critical heat in the title swing. I mean, the Tide, after that heat, they decided to call the event off, and that heat was kind of that pivotal time where if you got the wave that had an opportunity, you had an opportunity, and if you didn't, you didn't. I think that both those surfers were in really good form, but it just came down to Bobby Martinez picking the right wave that walled up through the middle there. And, as you can see, a quick bio on Dean Morrison. His current ranking is number 12, and his highest career ranking was 16th. He is currently in the water with current world number 2, Taj Burrow, and, the Tide is swinging out rapidly once again here at Mundaka, and the conditions are very tricky. And at this point in the heat, only two waves ridden, 0.83 and a 0.37 from Dean Morrison. So Dean Morrison once again just picking up some quick waves, but nothing really materializing for him so far, Dave.
Well, Dino, we've been talking about the shifty tidal conditions here in the Mundaka Bakio area, and not quite the 15-foot tidal swings that we've seen on the earlier days of the event, but still very tide affected. The sandbar out here today. The swell, it's the same swell as yesterday, just changed direction a little bit. More out of the north, so the swell's managing to get in to the window here in Mundaka now, but only in the kind of chest to shoulder high range on the biggest set so far, but hopefully as the tide drops, we'll see these waves, even if they are in the shoulder to head high range, hopefully start breaking and peeling down the sandbar here. There's a light onshore wind, but the sun's out, so 2 out of 3 ain't bad. We got waves and sunny conditions. We'll just have to deal with the onshore, but making things a little choppy, but it's more a question really of the tide dropping enough for the wave to start breaking properly out the back. But once again, we do have a small tidal window to surf in today, so we got to take what we can get, and all of the contestants, the competitors, the competition directors, and our head judge have decided that it's good enough to send them out there. We're not going to get anything better than this in the rest of the waiting period, which does end tomorrow, but it's supposed to be flat. So it's a quick wrap-up on the conditions, and just to let everyone know that, yes, we are back in Mundaka, but, well, maybe not the best Mundaka that we could hope for, but still rather be here than over at Bakio.
Well, you can bet that Mike Parsons has been on the phone back to Surfline in California there, our official wave forecasting for this event, and you know, Sean Collins and him are really close friends, and they've been dissecting the maps, and I think they've come to the conclusion that at this point, tomorrow, which is our last day of the waiting period, isn't going to really offer any more than today, if not a lot worse. So I think they're going to have to, you know, run through the rest of this event and finish it today, Dave.
No, I definitely have to, Dino. Tomorrow it is predicted to go completely flat in this part of the world, so this is basically it. It's money time. We have to run heats. There is swell out there, but it's going to be a little bit of a waiting game in the lineup. So while we're waiting for the next wave to be surfed, why don't we cut over to the internet a little bit, see plenty of people from the Von Zipper and Billabong companies around the world. Big shout out to Buffalo and the rest of the crew up at GSM, Billabong Europe, and to anyone online in the evening in Australia, Billabong International Headquarters, and in the States. If you're listening to us right now, well, hope you got the coffee brewing to help you stay awake. So we are here in Mundaka for the last day of the Billabong Pro 2006. There's a beautiful water shot, but as you can see, a little bit bumpy out there, but there are lines, and this could be our third wave of the heat, Dino.
Well, it looks like Taj Burrow, current world number 2, paddling up in red as he's ricocheting off the top there for his opening wave of this heat. Another little foam bounce there, as you can see it's still quite a bit deep through the middle here, and nonetheless, nice first turn for Taj Burrow as he bounces through this flat section. Another little snap off the top and another little snap, and a big vertical finishing turn for Taj Burrow, Dave. That was really smart surfing from Taj.
Well, you know, Taj has seen Dean try and take off on 2 waves and get, you know, less than 1 point per wave, so he figures anything that has a little wall to it, you know, he's going to have a shot at it. And great surfing backside there from Taj. He is still riding that Firewire surfboard with the balsa rail stringers, which seems to be, it's a little bit lighter, a little bit more buoyant than normal boards, and just has been working really well for Taj all through, well, in France he was surfing on rail. He was unlucky to go down to Pedro Enrique, but here in Mundaka and Bakio, those boards have been going great for Taj, and it looks like he's made the right choice of equipment out there today, and right choice of wave on that first one, finally managing to link through a bunch of maneuvers. There you can see Dean Morrison out the back having a paddle for a little in-betweener, but no.
And to all you spectators online, me and Dave Mailman would like to welcome you. This is the 2006 Billabong Pro, sponsored by Billabong, and we are into quarterfinal number 4, and shortly after that we will be going straight into the semifinals. As you can see, Taj Burrow up and riding on this replay. Nice big vertical off the top there, Dave, and it looks like Taj is getting his form on this wave. Nice little bottom turn, little snap off the foam. And this is his opening ride. Never really unloading on either one of those first 2 turns, but nonetheless, this wave, materializing all the way through here as Dean's first 2 waves were, really low in scoring. Why don't you take us through the inside of this wave, Dave?
There's a great carving snap back into the pocket to help Taj link up with the inside section. The judges' scores have just come in. This one good for a 5.17. So as you said, Dino, nothing too critical or committed out there, but still a really well-surfed wave. It's just another speed turn to set this one up. You can see how that board's really cutting through the little bumps, and that was, I think, the money turn on this one, Dino. Great, put the board up vertically, nice re-entry, changes direction here, just one last little foam bounce for Taj as it really just makes his way over to the jet ski and back out the back. So Dean Morrison will be out the back, but he's in a hole already. Taj with the one-wave score of 5.17. Dean now needs a 4.35, but kind of inconsistent conditions out there still. We should once again be seeing more sets as the tide drops. Once again, Mundaka is very affected by the tide, and we still have just over an hour until we really get into the low tide end of things. Hopefully at that point we'll be seeing plenty of hollow little wedges out the back there.
Well, as you can see a second ago on screen there, that was a beautiful shot of the river here as it rushes out at low tide. And there you go, up and riding. It looks like Taj Burrow once again up and out of that one. That wave not really allowing much scoring potential, so Taj opting to kick out. But nonetheless, he is in the lead at the moment with a 5.17, and currently in the second position is Dean Morrison, the Cooley Kid in yellow, needing a 4.62, Dave, and the conditions are definitely very inconsistent.
Well, hopefully we will see a little bit of consistency as we get down to the low tide, and we with the incoming tide we will hopefully see that push that we have on the other days that we've surfed out here at Mundaka. Really right now there's a little bit of a hole in the bank, and the swell is not quite as big as it was this morning, but the direction's still right. So as the tide drops, the waves should be getting better and better, but realistically we don't have that many hours left in the swell window, so had to get things running as soon as we started seeing waves capping out the back, and that's the case. So everyone keep your fingers crossed, think good thoughts, and hopefully with this dropping tide we'll be seeing some better waves for the competitors. But right now Taj Burrow is out in front of Dean Morrison, the 5.17, the only real decent scoring wave so far this heat. 13 minutes remaining. Dean Morrison needing a 4.62. Plenty of messages coming in about the title race, Dino, so I'm just going to pick up a little email from ASP Tour rep Renato Hickel, who has sent us in the Foster's Men's World Tour World Title Scenarios. Only Taj Burrow and Joel Parkinson are still in contention for the world title, along with 7-time and defending world champion Kelly Slater. If Kelly gets third, Taj can still be in contention for the world title, even with a 5th place finish here at the Billabong Pro Mundaka, and then the decision will go to the Novoshin Brazil event. For Joel, only the win matters. He has to beat Kelly in semifinal number 1 and win the event to still be in the running for the 2006 world title. If he gets second, he's out of the world title race, and it becomes a 2-horse race between Kelly and Taj at that point. Also, what else we got going on here? No, that's it. Regards, Renato Hickel, WCT Tour Manager. Thank you very much, Renato, for that information. If that wasn't clear, feel free to send in your questions, and we'll try and clear things up for you. But right now, an important heat for Taj Burrow. But if his good buddy Joel Parkinson can manage to take out Kelly Slater in our following heat, semifinal number 1, then even if Taj were to lose to Dean here, he would still mathematically have a shot at the title.
Well, as you spoke about that semifinal clash, it's an interesting clash because Joel Parkinson has been in blistering form. Obviously he won last week in the Quicksilver Pro and Hossegor there, and he was absolutely the most informed surfer at lower trussels at the Boost Mobile Pro, and he seems to be really in rhythm, and Kelly Slater at the moment is also in rhythm. But I think he's been stopped the last couple semifinals, against the Cooley kids. I think Mick Fanning took him out at J-Bay in the semis.
Yep.
As well as Mick Fanning took him out in the semis here at
in France.
In France, and you got to think that at this point he really wants to make it through the semi. He's been shut down a few times in the semis, which is a little bit strange for him. As we move into the semifinals, you got to think he's going to be really serious coming up here.
Well, you'd think so as we watch Taj Burrow paddle for one under the priority of Dean Morrison. Couldn't quite get that, but at least it's a good sign. This is a three-wave set rolling through, and it's starting to break on that inside section. Here's Dean Morrison. Dino, talk us through this one, and we'll get back to the discussion of the world title race after.
Well, that was a nice little snap on the open face. This wave kind of whitewatery, but nonetheless really good surfing for those Well, as Taj Burrow up and riding out the back as well, and a couple nice lip bashes for the kid from West Oz, and another little floater there, and a nice snap. Looking like he's going really fast at the moment.
Well, I think that's that firewire, man. That board has just added an extra probably half a point to every single wave that Taj has surfed since he started riding the thing. It really gives him that extra buoyancy and speed. And, Taj, of course, along with Mick Fanning, considered one of the two fastest surfers on tour. But this firewire board, this new technology with the balsa stringers along the sides of the board and a new foam, kind of a new epoxy foam mix. Well, there's Dean Morrison. We'll get back to talk about the boards afterwards. Finally, some action here in this one, Dino.
Well, those were two really nice snaps off the top for the Cooley kid, Dean Morrison. As you can see the replay here, I think this was his first wave.
This is his wave before where he fell, unfortunately for Dino, because he was, on his way to the bank with this one.
Well, nice open face carve there. Not really much lip. The wave's kind of fat on the bank there, as you can see all the white water on the face. And this third turn here, nice little snap off the top, and he really gets going right here. And another big snap, and as you can see, his legs looked a little bit straight on that.
Yep.
His stance was really close together, and he kind of went over the handlebars on that maneuver. But that was really unfortunate because that wave looked like it was going to be a good scoring
it
wave
still
for
could
Dean.
be okay, but definitely if he'd finished that one off. Let's take a look at the answer back from Taj Burrow here. Nice spray off the top on that one. Look at that down-the-line speed he gets to this board, just straight through that foam section.
So, Dave, are you sure that's a firewire there? It looks a little
may have
different.
changed boards. Well, he's been surfing his firewire up till now. Now, that would be surprising if he'd changed boards at this point in the contest. But you could be right, Dino. Maybe he did. It is a little bit smaller today than it has been the last few days. So maybe Taj decided to change equipment.
Well, there's a lot on the line in this heat for him, Dave. And I think the firewire boards are really epic for super small waves, and I'm sure they're really good for all types of conditions. But at this point in the game, whatever he's riding, you can bet it's the board he feels the most confident on. And as you can see, the score is coming in. That last wave for Taj is 6.83.
6.83. So Taj will be stoked with that one. And a 3.83 for Dean Morrison on that last wave where he fell, and a 5.5 on the wave after that. So Dean now, still in second position, needing a 6.51, but finally a few scores on the board there. And here's a replay of last of yellow. This is Dean's 5.5.
Well, Dean picked this wave up in the bay there, and it seems like it really lined up good on the second turn. He really snaps that thing on the open face, and you can see all the spray out the back. You have to think, had he made this 360 attempt here, you might have been looking at a score, above a 6. But nonetheless, a 5.50 does keep him in this heat. And at the moment, he only needs a 6.51 with 6 minutes and 39 seconds remaining. Plenty of time for the young Cooley kid, Dean Morrison, Dave.
Well, let's hope for Dean. 6.5 minutes. If we do get some sets, a couple more sets like that, it'll at least give Dean a chance to fight back, Dino. As you can see, and as we have been repeating ourselves the last 12 days, the tide goes in and out so fast here that the conditions in the lineup change probably for the surfers about 3 times during their heat. And where the 2 guys took off on that last set on their last 2 waves, that's kind of the second section where we've seen guys on the bigger days racing to try and do floaters or actually get their second barrel after the pig dog or the little front side tube cover up off the peak. So that section is starting to work. That's positive. It means that the conditions should be improving for the semifinals and the final here this afternoon. But while we're waiting for the next set to roll through, let's get back to our discussion about Joel Parkinson and Kelly Slater. As you were saying, Dino,
there's a great shot of the current world champion, Kelly Slater, and current points leader at the moment. And you have to think that he's going to be playing ball real serious today, Dave.
Well, he's serious and relaxed all at the same time. Taj was out last night for dinner, had a quick bite, and quick discussions with a few of the boys. He actually kind of was hoping they'd get to finish the event yesterday because he was really in a good mindset, and he's ready. He's just saying, bring it on, bring it on. And Kelly, on the other hand, was not partying, but he was out, had a glass of red in his hand, just before midnight. He was the only of our 5 competitors still in contention here for the title at Mundaka to be out and kind of on the town or on the village, as the case is here in Mundaka. So, he's concentrated but relaxed at the same time, and we'll see if that mix can bring him his 2nd ever Billabong Pro Mundaka title and his 8th ever world title, which will be the case if he does manage to get past Joel Parkinson and take out the final here today at Mundaka.
Well, you got to think that Kelly Slater is thinking, Joel Parkinson has plenty of momentum at the time, and Joel just seems really relaxed as well. And he's been in blistering form, probably the most informed surfer on the tour at the moment, just getting the highest scores. Obviously he has the Nixon Tube Time Award practically sewed up at this time.
I don't think we're going to get any 5-second tubes out there today, so that's very true. Joel Parkinson is holding down the Nixon Tube Time Award, I believe, with a 4.5-second long tube ride from his round 3 heat against poor Jared Howes. Of course, during that heat, Joel had the best 2-wave total of the event, 19.7 points.
And of the year.
And of the year as well on tour, that's true. Kelly had his pick at 20 last year. Here, let's take a look at Joel's tube time. Leading the Nixon tube time, 4 seconds and 56/100ths.
Yeah, you can see his rhythm on the wave there. He's just bending and twisting through this barrel, and that's a perfect example of what we're talking about. Just Joel seemingly in complete control of his board through that barrel, and he looked really similar yesterday, even though the conditions were quite a bit different. He just looked like he could mold and bend through all the bumps and rips, and he was twisting and wrapping and carving and even punting like a 3-foot air.
Yeah.
I mean, amazingly spontaneous for how relaxed he is. That's a really different combination of those two.
The unpredictable surfer of the day yesterday was definitely Joel Parkinson. We talked about Wardo and Bruce and how you never know what guys like that are going to do. And yesterday, it's very true. Joel just blew us away. So we just had a look at the longest tube of the event. And which definitely will stay the longest tube of the event. So Joel Parkinson taking home the Nixon Tube Time Award, a beautiful $10,000 ceramic player watch with 3 rubies, 3 emeralds, and 3 diamonds encrusted in the face of that Nixon watch. There they are once again, Taj Burrow, Dean Morrison. We have just under 7 minutes remaining for these guys. Dean Morrison currently in 2nd position, needing a 6.51 to overtake Taj and win a spot in semifinal number 2 up against Bobby Martinez. To go back to the Nixon Tube Time Award, Tom Whitaker currently holding down 2nd position and Victor Ribas in 3rd position. So all those guys will be taking home a collector's edition Nixon timepieces. There we see Kelly Slater in his yellow singlet getting ready for semifinal number 1 against Joel Parkinson, and Bobby Martinez must be hanging around the event somewhere, checking out the action and waiting to see who he's going to meet up against in semifinal number 2. Let's talk a little bit about Bobby, because you had some great insight on him yesterday, and you could say he's been the surprise performer of the event here in Mundaka.
Yeah, he's really been really exciting to watch, through this whole event and the entire year, actually. He's just very different type of surfer, very relaxed on his upper body, and tons of movement through his hips and his legs. As you can see, we were watching replays earlier, just really relaxed and super loose. And as you watch him surf, he generates tons of speed with very
minimal body movement.
Very minimal body movement, and that's a really unique type of surfing. And all his peers on the tour, they know he's here to play ball as well. I was watching one of his heats with Taj Burrow actually in Tahiti, when he was on his way to winning that event, and Taj was really excited for him. All the guys are, obviously when they're in a heat, they're a little different, but I think they all know that he's one of the best surfers in the world, and they're excited to have another guy of his caliber that I think they all thought he should have been here, a few years back, but nonetheless, Bobby, taking his time, and when it was right for him, he's on it, and he's making a huge impact, which is really exciting for the World Tour.
Well, and early on in the tour this year, Bobby was second in the world behind Kelly. He's currently sitting in 7th position, but this result, especially with the loss of Mick Fanning and Andy Irons in the quarterfinals, will definitely tighten up the race for the spots in the top 5. And here's Dean Morrison trying to get his spot in the semifinal. Dino, take it away.
Wow, those are two really critical off the tops for Dean Morrison. And this wave is going to be really interesting. Those were pretty critical turns out the back. There was 3 in a row for Dean Morrison as he slams that closeout re-entry there. And
that could have been the move that he needed to make to get that 6.51. That was great surfing up to that point. But, the judges, if you don't pull that last re-entry, they kind of pull their punches a little bit as far as the big scores are concerned.
Yeah, the judges are going to have the work cut out for them on that ride. He did do 3 big turns out the back, and the wave kind of stood up. It didn't really slope as much as some of the other waves I've seen in this heat. It had a little bit of wall on it, and he was able to do 3 nice turns out the back. As you can see the replay, Dave, you can see a really nice bottom turn here, and this wave kind of, as you can see, the lip kind of steepens up, and he really gets a nice snap there, releasing the tail as he re-enters back into that wave. And right here he actually has a lip to hit, nice blast off the top, and once again another little blast kind of kicking his tail a little bit. And you have to think, if it wasn't, there you go, it's an 8.0. So that's a really big score for out there, and that's going to put Taj Burrow in a serious situation with only 3 minutes remaining. Now the surfer in red, Taj Burrow, our current world number 2,
needs a 6.68 and is probably thanking his good graces that Dino fell on that last re-entry, because otherwise Dino could have been up into the 8.5 or 9-point area. So an 8.0 from Dino on that last one. There are 2 minutes and 45 seconds remaining exactly. Dean putting the pressure on Taj Burrow. Taj needing a 6.68 to move back into the lead and claim his spot in semifinal number 2 against Bobby Martinez. Now, just a reminder, everyone, in the world title race, if Taj does go out here in the quarters, he could mathematically still have a shot at the title, but Joe Parkinson has to beat Kelly Slater in semifinal number 1 for that to happen. And let's watch Taj on this one. Not quite what he's looking for, it doesn't look like.
Well, that
was a nice turn there.
That was an interesting choice of waves there for Taj. As you can see, the wave not really lining up through that middle end bank there. And Taj Burrow really kind of having to bump whitewaters throughout that wave. And he needs a pretty serious score at a 6.68. And
well, that's a solid score in the good range. Once again, good being from 6 points to 7.99. So 6.68 is a tall order. And Dean Morrison caught one right out the back behind him. I'm sure we'll have a replay of that coming up, but just a 2.07 and a 4.33 on that last one, Dino. So Taj still needing a 6.68 with 1 minute 25 seconds remaining. Let's have a look at this one again, a 4.33 But Dean Morrison is out in the lineup with priority as we watch this replay of that last wave of Taj Burrow.
Well, that was a nice first snap, but there you go. You can see all the whitewater in front of Taj Burrow as he's kind of not really on the open face yet, kind of having to bump over the whitewater. And it's really unfortunate for Taj. He really never really had an opportunity on this wave. This last turn was really nice, like blast the tail out. And, you know, and had he have had a few of those type of sections on this wave, he might have been able to get the score, but nonetheless, only getting a 4.33.
Well, I think he must have, you know, he heard the commentary and the score on that last wave of Dean Morrison. He knows the tide is dropping and that they're, you know, the possibility to score, put down big scores on these waves is there. So I think he thought, okay, if that last one lined up for Dingo, why not line up for me? But, ooh, interesting choice. 25 seconds remaining, so our world title possibilities are really coming down to the wire here.
As you can see, a shot of Taj Burrow's girlfriend in utter disappointment there. It's really a sad story for Taj Burrow, our current world number 2, and it looks like his title race possibilities are falling to the wayside at the moment.
Have just